We flipped a coin, okay? You and me. You and me. Coin flip is sacred.
Y'all ready for a show today, baby? Go time, baby. We've been waiting all week for this. This is where it happens right here, man. We man up, we stand up. We man up, we stand up. We all we got. We all we need. We all we got. We all we need. We all we got. We all we need.
Hit anything that moves. We're playmakers, man. We the best, nothing less.
You don't like this? Trust us, you don't like it.
We're between the white lines. This is football. Welcome to the big league. I won the toss. I took the football. Drive it down that throat.
Are you out of your mind? Are you out of your skull?
Hey, every season is full of defining moments. Let's make this day a defining moment for us in our quest.
Welcome, everybody, to Week 6 NFL for the CoinFlip. Up here as usual, coming to you Thursday morning from a little bit chillier Norman, Oklahoma. The what I would consider the cold front, I guess, is starting to move in here. Still nice out, but I guess colder weather to come. But for us, pleasantly welcomed. Getting ready to get on the show, and just signs of the times, or normal times, I guess. You know, we get the Falcons sent home today, or I don't even know if they got to the practice facility, but 4 people tested positive. So now that's kind of on the brink. I'm going to go through the show as if that game's going to go on, because it's actually probably a will be talked about game, or an eyed game, I should say, this week in DFS. Obviously, if it gets postponed or even canceled, we'll have to adjust like we've done every week, which will come more on the premium content side as we update rankings and, you know, shuffle things around. As of now, we're just going to assume that that game will be played. That's all we can do until otherwise. If you're in season-long stuff, obviously you got to start, you know, just like any other week, scrambling and potentially have backups ready. Frustrating for some, but, you know, it is what it is at this point in time. Just be thankful for what we got, I assume. Last week, you know, good week overall. Was winning all day Sunday, finished out breaking even, literally, you know, at the last game, bubbled. I was flirting on 2 or 3 big contests and bubbled out on all but one of them to lose most of the profit on the day. But for me, like I always said last week, if I can break even on NFL DFS most weeks, then I consider that a win, and just wait for the bigger one to happen. You know, ironically, the last 2 weeks I've played cash. I have a bullet lineup I play every week, and I'll play it in, you know, say the $100 single or something like that. My bullet lineup has outscored my cash lineup, so I got to figure out what I'm doing wrong there. And I hadn't cashed in cash the last 2 weeks, so I don't know if I'm bad luck to that or doing something wrong, or should I just play my bullet lineup because maybe the way I'm thinking there is best. I got to work on that a little bit, but I still kind of believe in that process and going to keep testing the waters there. Betting last week was great. Best week of the season, 4-0 on NFL prop plays, 5-2 on bets, including a 14 teaser at plus 250. Didn't start off this week hot. Went with the Bills. Which is kind of ironic because if you listen to the pod, I've been anti-Bills since preseason. I ate my crow on them, said they were better than I thought they were. And even in my write-up for Showdown, I mean, I thought the key was going to be turnovers, you know, because I think Allen has a tendency to turn it over at times. And not only did he, but others, I mean, they just kept turning it over. And once you get the momentum, and I kind of talked about it in Showdown, if the game script goes Tennessee's way where they can control the ball, run the ball like they want to, you know, that's not good for the Bills. The Bills want the Titans playing catch up per se. And really, you know, would I laid the bet if I thought all 3 of Moss, Brown, and White were going to be out? No, I wouldn't have. But it wasn't enough time for me to lay off by the time they were announced, to be fair to the community. So I didn't go against it. Certainly changed the Showdown strategy a hair, but mainly Tre'Davious White. I think that's a huge loss for them anytime he doesn't suit up. And in that matchup, I mean, AJ Brown just kind of, you know, and not only that, it's one up everybody else. You know, each corner has to come up and play different guys, and so it just wasn't the you know because I did all right against Henry. I mean, I saw some people touting Henry afterwards, and I was like, I mean, it was just a touchdown dependent situation for him. Like, are you going to take whatever he had, like 15, 18 carries for 57 yards each week? No, that's horrible. For that price guy, he gets 2 touchdowns and he pays off. That's just something you got to bake into the situation. But so even though that was week 5 bet is because I always do my betting Tuesday through Monday and I recap, and with the NFL being crazy as it is, I'm just going to continue that. And if the bet's on Tuesday, that starts the new week. So it's on the new card. So we start out with the loss there, but we're ready to fight back and have another winning week in NFL. March to the Masters. I guess everybody, you've probably seen that by now. Released this morning that our big prize we're going to give away is a limited release rare Scotty Cameron T22 Newport 2. I don't know how to say the other words, like terrarium. I had to ask Scott or Steve Story how that's pronounced properly, but it is the Newport 2, not the Newport. So there's 2 different ones. Super rare putter, limited release. We were able to get our hands on one thanks to a sub in the Slack. Still in the bag, untouched. It's a beautiful putter. I almost bought it myself about a month ago. And then I started getting the idea for the March to the Masters. So I waited and I was like, man, this would be a pretty good prize to give away. We'll probably depending on how the signups are going, I'll probably give away 2 or 3 prizes actually. But that's the big boy one. I mean, it's going to, eBay and stuff. I don't think you can find it in many local stores right now. Retail stores just sold out. eBay, I've seen it 900, 1,000 different places, depending on where you're looking. So great prize to give away. And that is for all people that sign up during the March to the Masters, and then any upgrades for our current members. We never want to leave our current loyal members out. So if you upgrade, you're in too. If you've already upgraded a full access site, because I get that all the time, you are in the drawing. So we're not going to leave you out just because you were ahead of the game on that situation. I'm not going to pull the DirecTV situation on you, as I mentioned last week. We want to reward both sides. Obviously incentivize people to come check us out, give us a chance. We've had tremendous amount of unsolicited positive responses in the last 7 to 10 days with what we're doing. Are we where we want to be? No, but we're little fish in the sea and we just keep swimming, and we're going to get there, as quick as we can and working on things to escalate that type of improvements, but we continue to improve and add on and improve the product for sure, as far as all sports are concerned. One thing that helps us, rate and review us on iTunes. I will be doing a separate giveaway for the Masters and it'll come from people that rate and review us on iTunes, subscribe to us on YouTube, and then liked us on Instagram, Facebook as well. So I'll start that one probably next week. I'll let this March of the Masters get going, and then I'll mention that as we get closer to the Masters week of a second giveaway. And it'll you don't have to sign up. I mean, you got to be a member, obviously, but I guess I've never done that before. So you don't have to be a member on this one. You just got to rate and review us, subscribe on YouTube, because that really helps us generate, additional sources and gets our name out there, which is a bigger deal. Because I believe once people get into our community, do we keep everybody? No, I'm not going to act like we do. I'd put our retention up against most because I think once they get into the family and the community, they really appreciate it. So the bigger we can make that stuff. And one of my biggest, as we start business plans and budgets and stuff like that for 2021, one of the biggest things I'm focusing on to work on the team with is growing our YouTube viewership and how to do, more videos and stuff to get us out there, like Cup with Gup. I want to get that more stabilized and then be able to, even if I do it myself and just do a little 20-minute video, stuff like that, that's stuff I want to get out there to tease and kind of show some of the behind the scenes stuff we have with the tools and how we work through things. So people can come check us out. I think that'll be a good thing for us and a good way to gain exposure. So rate and review us on iTunes, subscribe on YouTube, helps us out a lot. Listener League last week, 3 winners. Top 3 was Ken Podad, Nikki Noodles 19, and L Bulliard 64. Love seeing Bulliard there. Good guy, great guy, always in Slack, always grinding. All 3 of them are in the league. They've already accepted the Winners League of Champions, if you will. They've already accepted it. Kimpo Dad's lineup: Watson, Davis, David Johnson, Lamb, Chenault, Cooks, Kelsey, Zeke, and Panthers. A lot of guys I was on, still kicking myself for not going even bigger on Cooks. He was a guy I wrote up, talked about a lot last week, and I had him, but I didn't have for as limited lineups as I had. I should have had more. And of course, he goes off, does great. you know, I was close. Like I said, I was close last week. I can't hate the process. There's just like one or two deals that kind of kills you. One of my DAC lineup was, it was my first or second highest scoring lineup, even with him not finishing the game. So, I mean, who knows if he finishes the game, how that turns out. But, you know, if and us, candy and butts, we'd all have a Merry Christmas. So, you know, new listener league, I'm waiting on it this morning. Hopefully I get it back and I'll throw it in the pod. If not, we always tweet it at Gups Corner. And we throw it in Slack as well. As usual, I'm trying to keep this at 30, 40 minutes max. You know, such a saturated market. I want to hit on the high notes, especially, you know, I've had, you know, I mentioned this and someone asked about standing rankings. I was like, I don't want to say you lose motivation to do all that work early, but man, in these times, it is difficult to, you know, grind for 48 hours getting stuff ready or what, and mixed in with golf is still pretty hot right now. This is a pretty hot week for golf. Lineups lock here in 2 hours. And then just to find out a game gets canceled or moved or potentially that, and you got to reboot that whole system. It's not as easy as just moving out, moving in, because you got to figure out where's exposure going to fall, where does projections kind of move. You know, are there going to be sleepers that weren't sleepers before necessarily? Because I mean, you start removing 1-2 games out of a slate, you know, your options, you really tighten up. And this is a pretty tight priced slate already that we'll get into. And unless there's some injury stuff that comes through, I mean, it's going to be some tough builds this week. So, which I like, I don't mind that. But I am trying to push back as much NFL content as I can to Thursday, Friday, Saturday, really. You know, just because I want it to be as fresh for you guys without having to, you know, make it where it doesn't matter, you know, once you get to it, because well, half these things are over with. So, and the cup with Gup, right? I normally was doing it on Tuesday mornings. Well, we didn't even have week 5 finish. So I normally don't finish my power rankings till all the games are in. And this was a big week not to, because I mean, I had the Bills winning that game. Titans look good. How much of adjustments you make there, yada, yada. Wednesdays are loaded from sun up to sundown. So I really don't do it then. And so now I'm like, all right, I'll do a cup with Gup on Thursday, probably, you know, and luckily, you know, I didn't, because now I got the Falcons stuff to deal with. It's just, it's a crazy year, and everybody seems to be great with it. You know, we're just for content providers and stuff, it definitely is frustrating because you want to provide the stuff, you know, as soon as you can, as accurate as you can, and as meaningful as you can. And so when you put stuff out there, then it becomes irrelevant. It's frustrating as all get out. You know, and it helps being a premium member because they do get the latest updates, but I want to give the pods its due respect as well. If you can't afford to be a member, don't want to be a member, you just listen to free pods, I want to be right there. So anyways, let's get into the slate. Sunday main slate as of now, 11 game slate, 9 early, 2 late. I looked to see, I mean, that was on the NFL.com schedule. I know things have been shifted around. There's no Thursday night football game. They got the Chiefs Bills moved to Monday. Rams 49ers Sunday night football, Cards Cowboys true Monday night football game. The Chiefs Bills look to go off a couple hours before the one, I believe. So I don't know if the NFL at least get 3 games in that late slate. If not, that's going to be horrible. Although the Packers Bucks is one of those 2 games, which will probably be one of the most anticipated games for a guy like me, though, that has, you know, Sunday ticket and all that. I mean, I like to have 3 or 4 games going and cranking at that time. 2 makes it that sometimes quote unquote boring. Although, pause, with what should be a great round 4 finish at Shadow Creek with the CJ Cup, with all the big boys there, you know, I don't necessarily mind it, but, you know, those big boys won't go off till probably 3 or 4 in the afternoon, my time. So, you know, I'd like to have a little more games there, but I'll verify that. So far, I just see 9 and 2. I hadn't seen anything change as far as the slate goes. The nice thing DFS wise is it's good and bad. So guys that are on the ball, they like a little more late games because they know they can go in and swap and in certain chances get off chalk that they may have been on if they're scrambling. And a lot of here, I mean, I talked to a lot of guys that do that, and they wind up breaking their week even by doing some late swaps opposed to just not doing anything. And they would have just lost, because if you're already behind and you have chalky guys in the late game, how are you really going to catch up? And so they like to have those options because there's not a lot of guys that really do that or think like that. On the flip side, we like having a lot of early games because we get all the inactives out, all the questions out. You know, come 10:30 my time, so 11:30 Eastern, you got an hour and a half. You pretty much know 80, 90, at this case, you know, almost 90% of the slate, you know who's in, who's out. So you don't have to think or overthink anything like that. So it's kind of, you know, six, one, half dozen the other. If you're new to the pod, appreciate it. We continue to grow. Go support Ryan with the NASCAR pod, Bobby with the college football pod. They're doing a great job with both of those. We continue to grow this network piece by piece. I do the playbook here. I go through each position, injuries. I give plays, fades, and values. And then come down to the end, I give my 3 favorite stacks on the week. I look at my 2 favorite Super 7 spreads in the betting contest. I give my upset of the week, my survivor picks, and then we wrap it up. Kind of a wham, bam, thank you, ma'am type of deal. I don't want to drag it all out for you guys. I'd like you guys to be able to listen to this in a quick workout or a quick drive to work or whatnot. So we'll kick it off with quarterback. Really, the only injury right now is Baker. I think he's on the main slate. When I look at injuries, I look at all because I know some of you guys are thinking of season long and all that kind of stuff. So I may mention someone that's not on the main slate, but I just like to, I pull all of them. So Baker is, I just checked. He's questionable. I think he plays. Not worried about it. My first play on the slate is Cam. I think because of the rushing upside, very tight pricing this week. So you're going to see where I want to pay up at and where I try to pay down at. QB, I'm uncertain yet. I like Lamar. I'll get to him in a second, but that drives you to one build. And I don't think, we're very early in ownership. I don't think a lot will pay up for Lamar. Maybe I'll be wrong on that just because of how the slate looks. Now where a case, if something breaks open, like last week, Julio being out, stuff like that, and you can get some cheap fill-ins, which most times they flop. And last week, the Zacchaeus, he flopped. And it wasn't because he wasn't in the game or anything. And I saw Twitter guys that were like, which clowns are going to go play him. And I was like, well, and I was saying that I'm not big on a random guy that gets bumped up to the game that we hadn't seen yet. But because we just saw him, I think on Monday night, and Matt Ryan was targeting the shit out of him, that was different to me because I was like, he just played like that week and had a ton of targets. So I'm willing to take a risk on that. But if Joe Blow is starting all of a sudden because Amari Cooper's out or Devontae Adams and we don't have nothing on him and we don't know anything about him, even college-wise, really. He's just a guy. No, I'm not just going to fall to that. And I probably would make that choice every week to go to a guy like that if we just saw him get a ton of targets. And Ridley played Monday, albeit not great. So it wasn't like Julio and Ridley were out. Ridley was in there, and this guy was getting a shit ton of targets. They do have Gage and all that, and I get it. And he got targeted early in this game, just nothing paid out. But unless something opens up, it's going to be some tight pricing. So I like Cam and Lamar. Cam, I don't think many will go there. I think people are worried about the COVID stuff in the sense of how they perform, but they're playing Denver, 9.5-point favorites. I think he's going to rush a lot. It's really strictly, I think the rushing upside is there. 1 or 2 rushing touchdown from him versus these passing quarterbacks really make him pay off at 6,500. I don't think he'll be highly owned at all. I may be wrong on that. We'll update that as the week goes on, but and then Lamar is my other play. Like if you want to pay up, like I think the hot game is going to be Brady and Rodgers. I would go Brady because I'm saving $1,000, and I think if that gets into a shootout, I think Brady has the upside. Although I do like Ronald Jones, get to that in a minute, but I also like Aaron Jones. Tampa can be run on a little bit. They're a pretty good D in general, but if I'm going to pay $7,700, I would probably take the upside of Lamar versus the one-off of Aaron Rodgers having to throw for 300 yards, 4 touchdowns. Lamar makes up a lot with his feet, and we're seeing that. He ran last week some. Philly's not the best D in the world. So I don't know if I'm going that route this week, but if I'm going to pay that high up, I just skip Rodgers and go to Lamar as it sits right now, which goes to my fade is Rodgers. I just, simply because of that, I like Rodgers, love Rodgers. Love what he's doing this year. Love the Packers, preseason, all that kind of stuff. But I just can't stomach the 7,500 for a guy that has a pretty good backfield. Aaron Jones can take over. You got Jamal Williams. You just need a lot of touchdowns from a guy at 7,500 passing touchdowns. He doesn't have as much rushing upside as he may used to. More of a scrambling type. And if he was 7,000, maybe I think about it. But for $200 more, I'd just rather take Lamar in that situation, unless ownership drives me otherwise by Sunday. But ownership aside, that's kind of where I'm at right now. I do think that game is going to be, I'm actually leaning the under there. I think it's getting hyped up, but I think people forget. I know the Packers aren't known for the greatest defense, but the Bucs are playing. I mean, they're playing decent. I mean, both those teams. I don't know if it'll be such a shootout as much as people think. Mainly because I think they may try to establish the run more than you would expect. And so that may be an ownership deal. If everybody's thinking like that, like me, obviously I would, if Rodgers is a third the ownership of Lamar or something, that may change my opinion. So let's keep in mind on that. Value, Fitzpatrick. My hesitancy here, and I say value more of, I'm sure he's going to be owned. And again, I stopped running ownerships. I don't even look at them till Thursday now because it changes so much if a game gets canceled, postponed. I mean, it changes the whole slate of ownership. A lot of guys, it's not like one go, like DJ withdrawals, it affects some of the 9K maybe. And because he was so high up, I'd say no. It could trickle down a little, but more of JT Rom this week. Well, if a whole football game gets canceled, especially one like the Vikings Falcons, where you got points galore coming, that it just changes the whole slate of ownership. I'm like, man, why? I mean, eventually you had to get something out there and get it going, but I'm like, why dig into all that? And it'd be useless by the time you get there. My assumption here on Thursday morning, and kind of what I have drawn up and ran, Fitzpatrick's going to be super chalky. But at 5,900 against the Jets, certainly probably a cash play. We'd have to ask our man Ryan, who's just doing a great job providing the content there. So maybe he's more a cash play, but maybe you build unique in that situation. I don't see a negative correlation for him in that game. Obviously, they could get way up, but he has a rushing upside as well. Just a little, I mean, not great, but he does. 5,900 on a slate like this where you need to fit the pieces. I'm trying to really trick my mind is don't get too cute. Like, all right, if that's the spot, let's get there and let's find 2 or 3 other mini stacks that no one else is on, and let's just play the good spots, which people have been doing, Dallas games, stuff like that. And they've been crushing. I mean, you go look at the winners of the big GPPs every week, which I do. And I mean, for the most part, pretty obvious plays, and they have 1 or 2 pieces that they took chances on. My other value is Kirk Cousins, Vikings. Obviously, we'll see how that game goes. $6,100 going up against Atlanta. I don't know where. I don't think we see the Atlanta last year that storms back the last 8 games and saves the day. I like Cousins even more if Cook is out. We know they like to establish a run. The problem, even though they got Boone as well, and I love Madison. We'll get to that in the running backs, but I think he'll be forced to throw a little bit more in that game. And Atlanta's O has been all right. They're just garbage in general. My biggest fear about Cousins, and I just got him as a value mainly because of he's going to be less than 5%, $6,100, is if they start pulling away and Atlanta checks out and says, we're done, that's a worry. Now they fire their coach. And if that was the issue in the locker room, they just lacked respect, maybe that changes. So the reason why I like Cousins is I think they will come out fired up, and maybe this was negative, stuff in the locker room. And so if they can keep it competitive, I think it's going to be somewhat of a shootout because Minnesota's D had nothing to, hang your hat on. So like Cousins, let's hope that game continues. But first, safety's first and all that situations. And I'm all for that. And I'll get to that in a minute. That'll be my final thoughts in general, college football, everything. Some of the things all the clickbait shit I'm seeing on Twitter. Running backs, questionable. All these guys are questionable right now. Early in the week, that's pretty much how the NFL do it. They got rid of the probable sign, if you didn't know that, a year or 2 ago, which makes it tougher because, if a guy has any kind of nicks, they're just throwing him on the questionable. There's nowhere for them to put him anymore. Hunt's questionable. Melvin Gordon's questionable, but that's because of the DUI. It's not because of injury. Gibson's questionable. Zach Moss is questionable. He did sit this week on Tuesday. They don't play till Monday, so it's a Monday night game, but keep that in mind maybe for showdown or your season long. Fournette is questionable. We'll see how that could impact Ronald Jones. Ronald Jones is playing good to me, so but he will cut into some market share there. And then Dalvin Cook is questionable. I lean that Dalvin probably doesn't play for multiple reasons. One, Madison's a good backup, a serviceable backup. And they're playing Atlanta, and they're home. So if they can rest Cook, they probably will. They want him for the fourth quarter of the season, not right now, and healthy, because last year he got banged up late, and that really killed him and us, because we all had the rushing leader deal for the year, and I think he gets that if he doesn't get hurt. So my plays, Jonathan Taylor, going back there, and it's another one. Like, I out-thunk myself late Sunday morning, is love Taylor, and chicken out of him, going way overweight. I just played him in one lineup. He didn't do like fantastic, but he did good, and especially being low owned. $6,400 this week. I don't think he's low owned. I think he's showing like his upside. He's a solid RB1, even though there's guys there that can take some carries away from him, for sure. He's a pretty solid OB1. Running back one. So going up against Cincinnati, I think they're going to run the ball against them a lot. And that's a game I'm targeting for, potential stack purposes. But I like Taylor, $6,400. We'll see where the ownership comes in on him. Ronald Jones, I just mentioned him earlier. That's a piece in that game I like. $6,000. Mid-level running backs this week could be a key, meaning 5,000-6,000. I don't know. Aaron Jones, he's doing well, and I mentioned earlier I love him. He could get scripted out a lot. He's had that happen before. So are we willing to pay up for the 7,600 Jones, or is Green Bay willing to just hammer him? Probably. And maybe most guys are on him. I would like Aaron Jones if he winds up coming in low owned because of that price. But for now, I like Ronald Jones as my second running back. $6,000 against Green Bay. My fade of the week is James Conner. Going up against Cleveland's not bad. I mean, I know they can be ran on, but their D is playing pretty good this year. They're on a roll. Entire team is. This is a rivalry game. This game's normally low scoring. I don't get the price tag. It's 7,100. I don't see him as fourth or fifth highest running back this week against Cleveland. So that's a fade for me. My value number one is David Montgomery, 5,800. I know 5,800 doesn't seem like a cheap value, but mixed with potential ownership, and there's really not a lot of great low priced running backs this week. They got rid of the $3,000 running back level, so now it's 4. So you really squeeze it, especially when you don't have a 8, 9, 10,000 McCaffrey that kind of spread out that salary ranges. I'm going to take Montgomery, $5,800. Carolina, is not great against the run. They've been decent at times for sure. I say decent. There are times that they've shown up, but if anybody in that game is going to have a pretty good game, that's the one I would lean to, is David Montgomery. My next value, and this is me, is Madison. Now he's 7,200. So you're probably thinking, what? And I'm like, I honestly surprised that DK got the pricing right, because Cook is pretty much probably out. I don't know how many people want to pay up for him, but he is pretty. Look, he did well on Monday when he came in there. He ran hard. He can catch the ball. Obviously, with Cook out, there's a chance for, we've seen Boone still red zone target touchdowns and stuff like that. This would strictly be a pivot play, because I don't see many people. Like, I think Derrick Henry is 7,300. Like I said, Aaron Jones 7,600. I don't see how many people will pivot. I think why would I play 7,200 Madison when Mike Davis is 7,000, right? Not many are going to do that. And so a situation where DK was on the ball there, got the pricing right. And if Cook winds up playing, all the better, right? I don't think he will, but that's where we're at there. I think that's a pivot play. That's why I have it as a value. And so just to clarify, my values aren't necessarily dollars. Sometimes it's percentages, low percentage guys as well. Wide receivers, injuries continue to be our biggest amount of all the positions. Mike Evans, AJ Brown, Landry, Gage, Juju, Samuel, Slayton, Chenault, John Brown, Allen, Watkins, Julio, Godwin, Chark, Green, Deontay Johnson, Edelman. All questionable right now. I think most play. Julio's probably one to keep an eye on. No reason to rush him back. Their season's pretty much done. So, I wouldn't rush him back and risk further injury. Godwin and Evans, I think both will play. I think Godwin will probably come back and play finally. These questionable tags on a Thursday make it tough, because you really don't know until probably after the Friday practice reports and injury updates come out, and then you kind of limit it down to who's really still questionable or game time decision. But I can't wait till Friday night to release a pod per se. But I just want to put those out there. Unless I think they're doubtful or out, I'm listing them as questionable, and I'm considering them in my thought process for the week. My first play, it looks like he's 100% back this week, is Devontae Adams. Love him. He's the spot I'll pay up at, and so where I talked about, I don't necessarily want to play Rodgers. I don't have to. I think I can play Adams and get all I want against Tampa Bay. $8,000. I'll pay up for it this week. Love Adams. Next one, I think he has one of the best matchups in the week. Top 5 matchup for me is Galladay against Jacksonville. $6,200. I love that price. Little lower, lower of the top tier. He's one of the lower price. So love that matchup. I think Detroit's going to sling it. Jacksonville's not the greatest. It's still a high game total because Detroit doesn't have the best D either. Could be in a shootout, which is even more the better for Galladay. I think Galladay could have a bust out type game. I do like Godwin. He was close to me for me putting him in there. And if he is full go, he would be my 2B there of playing him. My fade is Calvin Ridley. I just not going to pay $7,800 for a guy on a team that the last 2 weeks hasn't done a ton. B, they're on the road. C, I don't know where the locker room is at. And he could have a good game. In that whole situation, I just don't like the 78. I'd rather pay $200 up for Adams, who I know is going to get 10 plus targets easy. They're motivated. They're in a high visual game of the week. So that's my fade of the week, Ridley. I like the guy. I mean, I've been on him. He's obviously one of my prop bets preseason. I hope he goes off because it looked like it was going to be a shoe-in to get that over 1,000 yards for the season. Not so much now. We need them to finish playing and keep playing, but we'll see. My first value, F1, Terry McLaurin, Washington, at the Giants. Good spot. I don't think they're going to go with, I think I saw this. I'm still behind from golf. At quarterback, I think they're going back to Kyle Allen. I don't know he was technically injured, so it wasn't like he played bad and they pulled him. The story with Alex Smith is great. My gut was kind of turning a little bit, probably just like anybody's when he goes out there, just seeing that play like in your head. His wife had mixed emotions. She mentioned it, but Kyle Allen isn't the worst, and in that situation, the Giants we know is not the best by any means. So I like McLaurin. I like his deep threat. Allen can get him the ball probably better than what Haskins was. So $5,700, good spot for me this week. Preston Williams, maybe I don't know how popular he'll be in that Jets game. Probably decently. I'm sure a lot of people will go after Dolphins. Obviously Devontae Parker's a no-brainer if you want to go that route. But for $4,700, maybe get a little different on that Dolphins. Sneak peek, the Dolphins are going to be one of my stacks. I think you can mix and match whether between the running back, Gesicki, Preston Williams, Devontae Parker. I think you can mix and match some stats there. I don't think Isaiah Ford is necessarily 100% out of the equation at $3,500, but my second value there is Williams at $4,700 this week. Tight end injury concerns, Gronk, Ebron, Hurst, and Noah Fant, all questionable. It does look like Drew Lock's going to come back this week, which would be good for Fant. If both those guys play, I would upgrade Fant in my rankings because Drew Lock is their best quarterback, and then he loves Noah Fant. So a guy I was huge on preseason, having him in leagues, having him in best ball, stuff like that. So hopefully he comes back healthy. My play, just mentioned it, is, and tight ends is tough this week. There's not a lot of good value, quote unquote. Again, I think the pricing is tough this week and done well. I go Gesicki, which is probably going to be chalk, but I'm not getting cute on the play part. $5,500 saves you a little bit of money off of an Andrews Kettle type, a little higher than Hawkinson. So, and I don't mind Hawkinson. I was actually between those two, and I could see a mini stack between Galladay and Hawkinson for sure. So keep that in your mind. My fade will be Kettle. San Francisco. I don't know if Jimmy G is going to play. He didn't look good. That hurts Kettle. I think they're playing, that's a tough matchup against the Rams. Yeah, I just don't know. And $6,800, I don't think I get there this week. There's other options, and tight end in this week isn't a spot I want to play up. I'd rather pay up for a Devontae Adams and go down on tight end than vice versa. So I'm going to fade Kettle. My value, I don't know how long we keep going back to Logan Thomas. He's 3,300. He is playing the Giants. If there was ever a week, maybe, but I'm going to go with Hooper. Baker seems to be looking at him a little bit more. He's 3,900. So still under 4,000. He's 600 more than Thomas, but could be a situation in Pittsburgh, playing good where, the tight end gets more involved, and that's dependent on Baker playing. So I'm assuming he's going to play those. So $3,900, if you're looking for a cheapie, I like that. You could always put Logan Thomas in there and pray, but he just hadn't looked good. Maybe if you get a full game out of Allen, that helps a Logan Thomas. That would be my only, throwing a little bit of a dart, and he's so cheap that you may be worth a flyer and some GPPs for sure. Defense, my play, I've been doing pretty good on defenses. I'm not going to get cute on them. If I have a value player or two, I'll look at. A lot of people don't like paying up for defenses, and sometimes that works out, but sometimes it doesn't. I like the Colts this week against the Bengals. If Leonard is back, so that's the only asterisk there. I assume he'll be back. He's the leader of that defense. They're a great defense when he plays. He was out last week. That's why I was all over the Browns. Their left tackle was out. That was another factor. I think both those guys are back this week. I think they both play, which helps Taylor. And on the offensive side, and I think their defense comes up. And anytime you're playing a rookie quarterback with a garbage offensive line, probably the worst offensive line in the league, I like that situation. It is $4,000, so it's not going to fit at all times. Chalk of the week by far is going to be the Dolphins. If you play them, you're basically matching the field because they're going to get played a ton. I don't understand the 29, like where DK did a good pricing. I'm like $2,900 for going up against a horrendous offense in the Jets. 9.5 point favorites. It not get cute there, right? So you still want to play them. I'm not going to not play them, but if you want to get a little different, you have some extra money, maybe go up to the Colts. A 2B team you could look at is the football team of Washington. $3,300, a little bit higher than Dolphins, and maybe not as many get there against the Giants. We've seen the Giants turn the ball all over a lot. Washington has a good defensive line to put pressure on. Giants struggle on the offensive line pass protection. So that's one I would look at as a pivot if you don't want to pay up to the Colts. Last four out / gut plays. Gaskins for Miami. We kind of mentioned this foreshadowing of the stack. I like him this week. Joe Mixon, I like this week against Indianapolis. I think in a game they'll be probably playing some catch up. He's a guy that does get involved in the passing game. He seems to be picking up momentum. 6,200 is a decent price. I don't know how many people want to go, to a Mixon right now. And so I don't think he's going to be too chalky by any means. So I don't mind going to him this week. Obviously they're not going to pound it all day. They're going to try to establish a run against Indianapolis. And that's probably Indianapolis' weakness a little bit, but he's valuable out of the backfield. So I like Mixon as well. Justin Jefferson, a guy that I think a lot will just stop. It wasn't a fluke, 2 good weeks and then pretty much nothing. I'll go back to that this week. $6,000 in that Atlanta game. Get some mini stacks there per se. He's a good player. He's going to be good in the league. He's not going to be good every week, but most wide receivers aren't. He's not a one yet. He's not a Devontae Adams, DeAndre Hopkins type. So I like Jefferson this week to go back to him. And then Godwin, I mentioned him earlier. So he was right on the edge. Probably would have been in my play if he's 100% in this week, but because he's not, he's just right on the outskirts. I think he's a good play this week and could have a big game. Stacks, my 3 favorite stacks of the week. First one's the chalk stack. I like the Dolphins, obviously. I think you can mix and match that and try to get a little bit different than what most people are, kind of get a better read on ownership Saturday night, Sunday, who's people. And I think they could bring in Isaiah Ford. That's a bigger GPP play, but at $3,500, the upside's there. So you could get a little different in the Miami stacks. Maybe you fade the quarterback and stack everybody else. I don't know. There's some ways to get there. We'll see where ownership's coming in on my projections tonight or later on today, and then upgrading them, all the way through Sunday morning in the Audible. My next mini stack, I like Madison and Jefferson. I just kind of hinted it. Let's assume that game gets going. I think just a little mini stack there is a good way to start. Don't see many people are going to play them. 7,200 and 6,000 is not cheap. So it really lets you open up, especially if you get some cheaper Dolphins in. I don't think many people are going to run it back with, a Jefferson Madison stack. So that could be a way to have a chalky lineup and be different. So I like that. Kind of my third stack I added, I used to just do two, is kind of a not so obvious, is I like Jonathan Taylor, TY, and the Colts D. I don't think that'll be a very popular type deal. I think TY, we know he's a reception king. He just gets a ton of grabs. Some weeks he just goes off, but he gets a lot of those 8 to 10 games, which in the PPR type stuff at $5,000, it really saves you some salary. And if you want to run the Colts in there as well, I don't mind Taylor, TY, Colts D, and run it back with Mixon. You could just go Taylor and TY if you want to pick up one of those cheapy Ds and still run it back with Mixon. I certainly don't mind that either. So those are the stacks for the week right now for me. Betting / contest. My two favorite bets right now are Vikings -3.5. Obviously, that's probably going to come off the board for a little, or be, at least grayed out for a minute. And then the Titans -3. Let's see if I have another bet. What was like a 2B for me on the contest? I don't know the line. Would probably be the Cardinals. I'm interested to kind of see where people think Dalton, how much drop do they give to the to Dalton from Dak? And then, are they going to trust him to have to be able to throw for 350, 400 yards? Which they're going to have to do. Arizona's going to score on that defense. Kyler's good. He may have weeks where he shows some downside, but his upside is certainly there, especially running the ball. So they're not on the slate this week. Obviously, I like Kyler, but if the Vikings game was off, I'd probably think maybe Cardinals as a 2B. But my two favorite right now, if they play, are Vikings -3, Titans Vikings -3.5, Titans -3. My upset dog of the week is Washington, currently a 2.5 point dog. I think Allen is serviceable, in that at times in that offense. The Giants are just garbage. And unless they, especially with Saquon out, it really hurts, Daniel Jones. I like the pieces they have, and they look to add some good stuff in the, but they're just struggling. And I think Washington with that defense is really where I trust. That's the difference in the game. If everything is all equal, that putting pressure on it and making, Daniel Jones have to get rid of the ball quick, which they can do, is a huge upside for the Redskins. So I like that, especially if Washington can score a little bit and make Giants, have to keep up. I like them in an ugly game too. They could win 10-7, 13-7, something like that. So dog of the week is the Skins +2.5, outright winner. Survivor picks, again, we're still early in it. If you're alive, I wouldn't get too cute. My top four are Ravens, Colts, Dolphins, and Pats. I think you go any way with all those. Ravens probably being, my favorite. And then I like the Patriots to come out off the break. Bill Belichick, Cam Ancy, and probably put a pretty good little beating on Denver. So if Locke plays, maybe not so much, but I think they win. I like the game. New England's at home for what that matters these days. As always, join me 10 o'clock Eastern time, our new start time for the Audible. Live member only chat. It's gone well. You guys have been asking a ton of questions. Really, really great. Educational, helps me think through processes. You guys have asked a ton of good questions in the member chat. You guys voted for the early one, so it helps me be able to get done and kind of clear my head and then do my lineup, do my adjustments as inactives come out as well. So that's been really good. Last reminder, join gupscorner.com right now or upgrade for our March to the Masters promo. Use the code MASTERS. You get 30% off. You get thrown into the drawing for the super rare Scotty Cameron putter, plus more prizes to come. Really helps us out a lot. Help spread the word. Tell your friends, give us a try. If we don't provide what they think, then it is what it is. But many people we get in there, the more it helps us, improve the site. We're putting all the capital back into the business to help improve it for you guys. So I certainly appreciate it. Hope you guys have a great week. I'll be out on some Gup with Cup either today or tomorrow morning. And then we'll see you Sunday morning for the Audible. Have a blessed day, and we'll talk to you later. Thanks.